I was asked by my community, the School Sisters of Notre Dame, to start a tutoring program on the east side of St. Paul.
In 1998, as part of a long-range effort to revitalize the east side of St. Paul, the Eastside Neighborhood Development Company approached the School Sisters of Notre Dame about unmet educational needs. In 2001, the sisters partnered with St. Paul civic and educational leaders to establish the Eastside Learning Center to provide one-on-one reading tutoring for children reading below grade level at no cost to families unable to get help elsewhere.
Thank you, Sister Audrey Lindenfelser. We're so happy to have you join us today to talk about your ministry in SSND and your openness to unmet needs.
Well, I'm very happy to share a little bit of my story. I'd like to start out by saying Eastside Learning Center is located in St. Paul, Minnesota, in neighborhoods that are home to a large refugee, immigrant, and minority population. That tutoring program started when educational and civic leaders from the East Side had asked the School Sisters of Notre Dame to help address an unmet educational need in the struggling East Side neighborhoods. And the sisters responded by asking me to start a nonprofit tutoring program, which we did, through the encouragement and committed engagement of many sisters, donors, and volunteers. For nearly 20 years, I was the director of the Eastside Learning Center, where we provided free one-on-one reading tutoring for elementary children.
I can't overstate how important this program has been. You have led the way on the East Side. You have made a huge difference for children across it. And so it is my honor to read the following proclamation. Sister, if I could have you join me here so I can present the proclamation. Whereas the Eastside Learning Center has been a major force in unlocking each child's potential through the foundation of reading since 2001. Whereas the Eastside Learning Center is an educational partner with the School Sisters of Notre Dame, St. Paul schools, foundations, businesses, and nonprofit organizations striving to close the achievement gap for K-4 students in St. Paul. Whereas the Eastside Learning Center welcomes all children in St. Paul who are reading below grade level and do not have the resources to get help elsewhere. Whereas the Eastside Learning Center is a reflection of cultural diversity in the neighborhoods served and in the faces of those who tutor. And whereas the Eastside Learning Center, in affiliation with the Minnesota Literacy Council, AmeriCorps VISTA program, promotes capacity building to serve low-income families in St. Paul. And whereas the professional and volunteer tutors who provide one-on-one tutoring make a difference in the lives of children while having a lasting impact that strengthens our community, country, and future. Now, therefore, I, Christopher Coleman, Mayor of St. Paul, hereby proclaims April 7, 2011 to be Eastside Learning Center Day in the city of St. Paul. Congratulations, and I know that my colleague on the council, Dan Bostrom, was in the back, and John Broderick with the St. Paul School District joined me in congratulating a great 10 years and a great future for the Eastside Learning Center.
And the legacy of service still continues today.
Then 2 years ago, I left the Eastside Learning Center, and I had no idea what I would do next and what need I might help address. And of course, I asked God's guidance and waited while believing I would be led to where I was meant to be. Through reflecting back on my previous discerning experiences related to ministry, I was assured that at this time in my life, I would be led to know. Where would that need be? As I explored many online job sites, especially the one from the Archdiocese of St. Paul in Minneapolis. I tried to be attentive to my inner stirrings, what attracted me, and what were my resistances. I wanted to be open to a totally new ministry, perhaps one I never thought of before. I knew I had to be patient, attentive, and reflective. Yet I continued to believe God would lead me to respond to some unmet need. So as I continued to pray for guidance and considered insights from others, I had a strong urging that invited me to consider returning to serve in Catholic schools, which I had not done for over 25 years. The thought entered my awareness that perhaps I could explore how I might assist children in reaching more of their potential by using my experience and skills, and maybe even develop a volunteer tutoring program for that school. So, in the spirit of Blessed Teresa, that led me to reflect upon the following insights about my life. First of all, I'm at home serving a culturally diverse and inclusive population. That had been nurtured through ministering a few years in Kenya, through teaching English and citizenship to Hmong refugees in Minnesota, and my recent ministry at the Eastside Learning Center. Also, I noticed I'm drawn to walk with those who are vulnerable by society, marginalized, and the underserved. I wanted to help address a need, especially with the poor, perhaps women, and children. And another insight I had was I love helping youth and adults reach more of their potential. We School Sisters of Notre Dame, as you know, minister with the conviction that education enables persons to reach the fullness of their potential as individuals created in God's image, so they might use their God-given gifts for the transformation of the world. Then finally, because of my 30 plus years of elementary teaching and administration, I felt I could be flexible and serve in multiple capacities in a Catholic school, which in this case had very limited resources. In addition, I could be part of a caring community that nourishes the spirituality of their children and families. So, following all of those reflections going on in my head and in my heart, I sent an email to a number of Catholic schools in the St. Paul area, which I knew served a diverse population in low economic neighborhoods. And that very day that I had sent the email, I got a response immediately from one of the principals saying, "Call me soon, let's talk." So that school, St. Jerome, was expecting about 40 new Karen children. These children are from refugee families coming from Myanmar, which was formerly called Burma. St. Jerome especially needed help to support these children and their families so they could thrive in their new home country and feel embraced by love. So, for 2 years now, St. Jerome School has encouraged me to live my SSND charism, serving a diverse population of persons made vulnerable by society, while helping them to reach more of their potential as individuals created in God's divine image. And at the same time, I'm enriched by and grateful for the diverse school community as together we grow in our ability to discover Christ's presence among us. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell of how I came to the Eastside Learning Center at one point and now at St. Jerome's.
And an interesting story it is. You can see Notre Dame has permeated your motivations and your ministry. How wonderful. How very nice that you were able to share that with us. We're grateful.
I'm happy to have done it. And I know everyone has those nudges within them that leads them step by step to the next response to the divine call, the divine movement in their hearts.
It's so interesting. You many times in leadership seminars, et cetera, they say, where do you want to be in 5 years? What will you be doing in 5 years? And for us, the answer is, I hope the will of God. That's what I hope I'll be doing.
I heard a speaker recently I read, it was Joan Chittister, I think, that talked about, it's not so much the will of God, what is the vision of God? The vision, that community, that care for each other.
Yeah, that's inspiring.
That helps me to say, okay, what's that total vision? Yeah.
Great. Thank you so very much, Audrey.